Hi guys. Thank you very much again for attending the podcast number 3. So today, I know Saheba said she wanted to talk about mental health and really interested in that, and you guys said the same. So we have a special guest here today, Rena. Rena, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name's Rena. I'm the project manager for the Digital Mental Health Project based at the University of Bradford.
Yeah, my name is Junaid. I study biomed science at the University of Bradford.
My name is Abdullah Bhatt. I study public health at the University of Bradford.
My name is Saheba and I do psychology with counselling.
My name is Fatima and I also do psychology with counselling.
My name is Asib and I study Foundation in Social Sciences.
Rena, do you just want to tell us a little bit about what your project is and what you're doing?
Yes, my project aims to support students stay mentally well during the course of study. Being a student is incredibly hard. It's fun, it's exciting, but also there's lots of pressures on students. You know, whether it's about meeting your deadlines, whether it's actually living on campus but not necessarily getting along with the people that you're sharing the accommodation with. One of the things we want to do here at the university is make sure that students are getting the right support and actually have a really positive experience when they're at university. The way we're doing that is through developing a wellbeing app for students. It's going to be a really good resource for you to get support and information around how to support your mental health and where to go for support if you find you might be struggling. Alongside the app, we have got a number of students who are acting as mental health ambassadors, and they're going to be out and about providing a range of wellbeing activities, drop-in sessions, running workshops. They're going to be developing content for the app. And what I'd encourage all students to do at Bradford to get involved in the project and attend all the activities that will be available.
Thank you very much, Rena. Rena and I, we don't know each other from before. We recently just met because Rena started this new project, and we just starting to work with each other. And you know, I think it's really important, and I think everyone else probably agrees that mental health probably does affect how you make certain choices, and just your ability to kind of, you know, when you're going for interviews or, you know, you're looking for a job, it kind of does affect you how you motivate yourself as well. So I don't know, do you have any questions for Rena about the app or about mental health in general, or, you know, previous to this, did you think about what you might be discussing today?
But I want to know, like, how did you get yourself in that sort of area, because it's not something that everybody does. So
I'm really passionate about mental health. I qualified back in 2002 as a social worker, so a long time ago. And for me, working at university was something that I always wanted to do, recognising that actually we have students who actually have lots of ambitions, lots of drive, and they want to be successful. And I would like to work directly with that group of students to make sure actually they make good choices and are successful in whatever they do in life. So I'm really passionate about mental health, and I think for me it's recognising that actually being a student is really hard, and if we can make sure students get the right support if they are struggling, then, and I can be part of that, that's going to give me a lot of job satisfaction.
So in your opinion, what techniques do you think you can use to keep your mind healthy?
There's lots of techniques available for students, but it depends really on the mental health condition you've got. What I would strongly suggest you do is you use our app, and you go on the app, which is the UOB Well app. And again, that will give you lots of resources you can use depending on what issue you're experiencing. But also, we have a fantastic service at the university, the Counselling and Wellbeing Service. Hands up if you know about that service.
Yeah.
So I would say, again, use them. They're there to support you. And even if it's a case of you have a question, you're not sure if it's the right service for you, speak to them, and hopefully what they can do is just reassure you a bit more. So there's lots of support and services available for students. What's important is that we know about those services, and we seek them when we feel we need to.
Any more questions, Ed?
When will it be launched, to our own students?
So the app at the moment is available for students. We've done a soft launch, which means that we've not had a formal official launch. We're hoping to do that later on in the year. At the moment, the app provides lots of information about a range of mental health conditions that students can experience, such as depression, anxiety, OCD. What we're hoping to do is expand the features that the app offers, so make it a bit more engaging for students. We're really keen to have lots of self-help tools that students can use directly themselves, because sometimes you might not necessarily need support from our counselling service. You might just need some self-help tools that can help you better understand your own well-being, and you can use those techniques and those resources to better understand what's going on, understand your behaviour a bit more. Does that make sense? So for example, if you find you're constantly worrying all the time, you can use like worry schemes and worry diaries to help you understand what the patterns, and you might be then able to say, actually, that's a worry that I commonly have, and this is what I need to do about it. If you find your moods fluctuate, you might, for example, want to use some mood diaries, and you might look for particular patterns. So you might find on a Monday, that's when your mood is really low, and you might be able to then understand, actually, this is why my mood is really low on a Monday. It's because maybe I have to come in for a lecture, or maybe actually this is when all my deadlines are due. So using certain tools can really help us understand our behaviour a bit more.
Any questions?
I've got a question. You know, the app, is it available on Google Play or what is it?
Not at the moment, unfortunately. It's not available. It's still in development, so the final product isn't available. At the moment, it's just a resource for university students.
Okay.
And what we're hoping to do is pilot the app and see whether it's successful, and it's something that you as a group of students want and you think it's a benefit to you.
Can students download it now?
Yes, they can. So I've got some of the
Yeah,
students in the room
we've
to do it now.
downloaded it. Yeah,
They've downloaded it.
it.
What we're really keen for is students to give us feedback on the app. So what does that information, is it relevant? Is it useful? Is it something that you would use? Our student mental health ambassadors are also going to be creating some of the content. So if you find, for example, the app doesn't contain information about a certain mental health condition, let us know, and we can look at developing some of the resources and materials around that.
So what awareness do you think there should be around mental health?
Awareness is really important, because sometimes if someone just has that bit of information, it can make a profound impact on them. So for example, if you know more about depression, you might then be able to identify that actually that's something that affects me, and then know where to go for support. If we don't have access to that information, we can always sometimes feel like there's no support out there, there's no solution to what I'm experiencing, and what you find is there's lots of support out there, but it's just knowing exactly where to go and how to get that support. And making the first step, the hardest thing is to seek that support, but the support is there, and there's lots
It's
of
hard to
support.
talk to people
It's hard to
about your
talk.
issues, yeah.
I think mental health is one of those subjects that there's lots of stigma and shame around, so people are a bit apprehensive to share that information.
Especially
Like,
with men and that.
with
Yeah,
men and mental
absolutely.
health.
I find it hard to open up about it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm really keen to hear about. As a project, what can we do to support males around mental health? If you've got any suggestions, we'd really love to hear you. We're going to be running a number of focus groups on campus, led by our student ambassadors. Come and get involved. I don't want to be guessing what students need, and it's really hard for us to develop services if we don't gather views of students. So I would encourage you to get involved, be really open, and that's okay to be open.
Yeah.
So for me, I suppose I would like to ask you a question in terms of how can we, or how can I as a project manager, support students to be able to be open about mental health and seek support?
I mean, like, with some sort of people, like, let's say with me personally, I don't like opening up. I
Okay.
can't open up to people. Like, it's really difficult for me to open up, no matter what's going on in my head or how I'm feeling. It's really difficult for me to open up.
Yeah.
However, like, for me, I think it'd help if I see like my mates or my friends, they're going to the groups, or then you see like posters about, and you read like big, like the posters that most posters you see around uni, they're tiny, like they're literally what A1 or something. You know what I mean? They're really tiny. And then if you got like, let's say, A3 poster like stuck up on a wall that you can read clearly from, let's say, 10-15 yards away, that's when you see, you know what, look, there is something there, you can see it, and then that might actually encourage me or people in general that I find it hard to open up to actually go try. Because at the end of the day, it's difficult. It's really difficult to open up. especially if you're going to go to someone that you'd never met in your life before. You're going to open up to them, and then you're thinking, why would I want to open up to a complete stranger?
Yeah.
It's going to be really difficult.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the hardest thing to open up and talk about mental health, but by doing so, it's sometimes it can make it the first step easier for us to seek that help. What we want to do at the university is make it easier for students to be able to seek that help. What's really important that you give us the ideas so we can use those ideas to provide the service that you want.
You said you had student ambassadors, right? So let's say your student ambassadors, in my opinion, they could possibly like walk around the uni more and talk to people more often, because I don't think I've seen a student ambassador, a mental health ambassador, wherever, like where I chill in their table tennis. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Okay.
Ever.
No.
So
All the services like would there be on the app?
So the app provides information about different mental health conditions,
Okay.
such as anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar, for example. But also what it does, it provides you information about the range of support that the university offers, but also not just the university, but in your local area. Like there's some incredible work taking place by voluntary organisations. You've got Mind, you've got Sharing Voices, which are all mental health charities doing some fantastic pieces of work with the South Asian community. So it gives you a range of information, and then you can use that information to make an assessment of what type of support you need. For some students, they don't want to access support from our counselling service, and that's okay sometimes. They might choose to access support from a mental health charity, and again, that's okay. What's really important, you know what those services are, and that's what we're trying to do, is just give you that information, and you're then able to make that decision about what support you need and the level of support you need as well.
I think you bring up a really good topic there, the next bit, Asian community.
yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation before,
Okay.
like when people from certain communities, especially from my background, they talk about mental health. Actually, they don't talk about mental health. They just say stuff like, "Oh, you know,
I'm depressed.
oh no, they don't even talk about depression. They think, oh, it's got Taweez, or it's got jinn."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or someone's done black magic on
Yeah,
you. Someone's done
that's
this.
what they usually
Yeah.
turn to. So I think there's not enough awareness, because it's a chemical reaction. When people are depressed or whatever, it's a chemical
Yes.
reaction in the body, and it affects you
Yeah.
mentally, but also physically. So yeah, have you got anything to help us with that?
In terms of,
Just providing more awareness, like, or have you had experiences yourself of working with people who think the same
yes,
way?
I think with mental health there's such a wide ranging view, and it's okay to acknowledge all. It's about where people are on the journey. What's important is that we know the range of support we can get. So for example, some individuals, when they are struggling with their well-being or their mental health, might seek support spiritually, whether it's a mosque, whether it's an imam. And for some people it might be actually they need more medical intervention or a therapeutic intervention like counselling. So it's drawing on different things for different people. Does that make sense? But in terms of raising awareness, we're trying to do as much of that as we can at the university. I think it's really important that we do that, and using a range of mediums. So the app is one way. We've got our Instagram account as well, which is another way. I'll take your point of flyers and information, visible information, which we're working on, and hopefully in the next coming weeks you'll see more visible pictures around of the ambassadors. So the ambassadors are out and about and working on making them a bit more visible, so you know exactly who they are. So you'll see them on your plasma screens and you'll know exactly who they are as well. So that's work in progress, and we're building on that. We're a fairly new project, so that's probably why you don't know about us yet, but you will. Hopefully give us a couple of months.
Have you noticed any stigmas about mental health?
Definitely, there's lots of stigma around mental health. There's a reluctance to come forward because people are worried about the shame. I think there's worries around your personal information in terms of confidentiality. If I share that, who else is going to find that? There's also a view that if you declare you've got a mental health condition, then actually that might impact on the support you get at college or how people view you. So there's lots of different reasons why people might be a bit reluctant to speak about mental health.
I think, going back to stigmas, there's a lot of ego around you know, men and women as well,
Mm.
say that, oh, I don't need it, and then they're always in denial of saying that, nah, I'm a strong person.
Mm.
And it's like we've heard the term from men where, you know, nah, well, boys don't cry.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, boys don't cry. Like,
That's just a load of BS.
it is
Straight up,
like
just a load of BS.
100%.
I-
They can't speak to their parents at times. They can't, because
Because you can't speak to your parents because at the end of the day, your parents will say, "Oh, you're on your phone too much." Or,
yeah, see,
you're-
I've had
what's it
that.
called?
Like,
Exactly.
Start making their
You
own
try
judgments
speaking
and
to your
start
parents.
reaching their own conclusions.
You try speaking to your parents. Let's say, "Oh, look, I'm feeling really upset. This and that." Or you should go on your phone less. Or you
Yeah.
should do this,
Go
do
out
that.
for a bit. Go
Exactly,
play
and then
football.
like that's the sort of stuff that makes you look. Yeah, it is. It makes you reluctant. It makes you reluctant to speak up and actually like you're thinking, look, if my family's going to do that, what other people are going to say? So that's what like pulls you away.
to be fair, there is, well, a very tiny truth to that, which is like sports. Like the way I get my anger out is by playing football or doing boxing.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone in the world like enjoys sport, and some people find it may take 15 years in some people's cases just to find a way where they can handle their OCD, depression, and so on. So, like, some people got into gaming, some people got into, you know, studying more, religion, so on. So,
And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes there might be a need for some more specialist help, a different type of help.
Yeah.
Look, for example, from a therapeutic service like a counselling service, and it's just about knowing where to go for that support. I think with mental health, everyone's affected by mental health. I don't know anybody who doesn't have mental health. And mental health fluctuates. You know, there are some days where we feel absolutely amazing and we're
Yeah.
okay. There are other days when it's really tough, and again,
Very.
that's okay. If more people come forward and talk about that, it normalises mental health, and it's just saying actually it's okay. Mental health is part of who we are.
At the end of the day, no one's perfect. No one's going to be happy 24/7. Everyone's going to have that off day, off week. You know what I mean? It's obviously going to come. And it's just how you handle it that really matters.
Yeah, and accepting it's part of who we are. We have good days, we have bad days. I suppose the other thing for me is recognising that, for example, linking it to careers. If you find you've got social anxiety where actually you might struggle in big environments or going to a new, for example, office for an interview, that can be quite overwhelming for someone who has to prepare for an interview. You know, if you're quite anxious anyway, the thought of having to go for an interview can be even more overwhelming. So it's really important with those groups of students, actually they have specific techniques or they're aware what triggers their anxiety, so they can actually use some tools to help them better manage in those situations. And again, there's support out there, but it's about knowing and understanding your own patterns of behaviour.
I find that breathing, like I think it's something called box breathing.
Yeah.
That helps me out a lot when I'm stressing out, when I'm overthinking. That's what helped me out. I just take a deep breath in, hold it, let it out, then hold it, then breathe in again, and then that's what personally helps me, calms me down.
I'm really pleased to hear you say that. That's really, really good. And so that's a really simple technique that you can use anywhere. The other one is about grounding yourself, really being present, mindfulness.
Seeing the 5 things that you
5
can
things,
see,
amazing.
4 things you can touch,
that's
hear,
it.
see,
Yeah.
smell, taste.
Yeah, and those sorts of strategies are really easy to use. They're like having a toolkit of things you can pull on in different situations. So I've used the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when I've gone for interviews. It's natural and it's normal to feel a bit anxious when you go for an interview. Sometimes we need to be anxious because it's the thing that keeps us going and gives us adrenaline, which sometimes we need. And I've used that technique myself, just sitting down, looking at 5 things you can see, and I found it's just calmed me down. But it's knowing that, so you've been able to use that because you know about it. So having other students know that these are some of the tools you can use is really important. So sometimes it's not necessarily just going to a counsellor, it's having tools like that you can use on your own in any place. Getting on a bus, you can use that. So everyday things that we do just helps us to ground us and calm us down a bit.
Wait, why do you feel like it's a stigma, like mental health? Because I feel like, I mean, just from like analysing this uni, I don't feel like it's talked about that much. Like, it seems like a very hidden thing,
Okay.
which I think might be one of the reasons why it's quite like hard to talk about, or like Haseeb said, he doesn't want to open up a lot. Maybe say if this uni did have a lot of I mean, I know they do have the counselling service, but if it was more like evident to us, would that make a difference? Because that's the reason why I do feel like a lot of people don't talk about it.
And that's the bit that my project's trying to understand really. But what is it? What do we need to be doing differently? Do we need to be doing anything differently to make sure that the service is right for the group of students?
I think you just need to get it out there. I know it's easy to say that. It's really easy to say that, but getting it out there is one of the main things that you need to do. Like, a lot of people will not know about this counselling service, this mental health program, ambassadors. Like, a lot of people won't know about it. So it's just actually just putting it out there and making it easily accessible. Like, what you have a lot of people that chill in the SU. Where is the mental health like counselling team?
So I'm going to ask you that, because
Ah,
what
no
year of
clue.
study are you in?
Me? I'm in my first year.
First year, so you're fairly new. So actually, it's just on the top level up here.
There you go then. Like, and how many people will know that? How many people will know that? Like, it just needs to be put out there more. Like, you could even say like you can make it look like appealing for
Okay.
people. So if people like the way it looks, they'll actually go there and then they'll find stuff out about it.
So actually, that's a really interesting point. So, for example, doing tours of where the counselling, would you think that would help in terms of letting people know this is where it is, this is what it looks like, this is what a room looks like when you're in there with a therapy? Do you think that might help?
Me, in my opinion, people like free things.
Okay.
So what, you could put chocolates there or something, or you could put something, and then obviously people will just show up.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that'll happen. So like, it's just like,
I think that one of the reasons why they don't advertise it, because there's no sign. You notice there's no sign.
Right.
I think not everybody wants everyone to know that I'm going to see a
And
mental
that's
health
part of the stigma, isn't it? And the
person.
shame that it takes a hell of a lot of courage to say, I might need a bit of help. And sometimes in the South Asian community, and I'm part of that, you know, I'm South Asian, sometimes we're not so kind to each other, if that makes sense. We're not.
It's quite toxic.
So I can really fully understand why there might be a hesitancy about seeking that help. But it's really important that we do. What I really want for our students is that they are successful. They're able to stay on and complete their studies and not drop out. I want them to leave with really good honours. But sometimes in order to do that, and if we're struggling with our well-being, we need to get that help.
So I have a question about the counselling service. Could someone go to them even if they don't have any issues and they just want to know more about themselves?
So in terms of the counselling service, they've got an amazing website. Have a look on their website. It gives you lots of information about the support they can offer. And if you feel you need some support from the counselling service, you can fill out a registration form, and then again someone will contact you and speak to you about it. So there's a process you have to go through to be able to get that support. You can email them and ask them questions. All that information is on their website.
Do you feel like there are some parts, maybe not just around the university, but from people's backgrounds and cultures that have kind of influenced them not to take counselling?
I think sometimes it's about not being aware of what counselling is and how it can benefit the individual. So if we can let people know that there are different ways we can seek support alongside the spiritual aspect, whether we're praying, whether we're going to a mosque, whether we read the Quran, but it's knowing that there are other places we can go for support as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think you can have both. Sometimes we can feel quite guilty that actually we're doing one or not the other, but it's okay to have both. You can pray and you can read the Quran, but also you can seek support from the counselling service. That's okay to do that, and sometimes we need that alongside some of the other stuff, and it's absolutely fine.
A lot of people just feel like need to explore more options end of the day.
Yeah. And I always say, try it out. So sometimes we in our head, or we can have a view about what counselling is, but it might not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to go and experience it and make an informed decision about whether it's right for us or not. But if we haven't tried it, it's really hard then to make that judgment.
I also feel like in the Asian community, it's just not taken seriously at all. Like I know some parents don't even believe in it. They don't even know what it is. Do you feel like there's anything we can do to just make a difference in that aspect?
Definitely. So just like with students in terms of providing information, we need to do the same for parents and carers, give them the information, increase their level of knowledge around mental health. I can understand sometimes myself why that level of awareness isn't out there, because we've got to remember it's a different generation. You know, the view of mental health has slightly shifted. There's more understanding, there's more acceptance as well, but there's lots of work taking place outside of the university with mental health charities, for example, to raise awareness amongst the older generation about what is mental health and getting them to recognise actually they themselves have probably been affected at some point around mental health as well.
I feel like, adding on to your point, the power of social media, now everyone can have an opinion on something, but even then it's not pushed out enough. And there's only been, I remember there was 2 adverts of mental health I seen on Snapchat, and that was back in 2018. I've not seen it since. It was about asking your mate twice, asking mate if he's alright twice. That's all it was. After that, I didn't see no mental health like advertised.
Oh, are you talking about on TV?
No, this is like on Snapchat.
adverts.
Okay.
On the Snapchat? Okay.
There was a Snapchat. I remember it well.
I'm just interested to hear in terms of at the university here. I think what you're all saying is you want to see more happen at the university for
Yeah.
students,
Yeah,
more visible
100%.
things at the university. So what does that need to look like? What kind of things do you want to see?
I mean, like Hasib said, you could lure them in with chocolates, so I feel like that is a good way, but I think just make it seem like something that's not a typical poster that you just see around, because there's so many posters, not everybody really focuses on it. They just like, I just want the poster, like whatever, but make it like stand out, make it something that's actually something, like make it a positive thing almost, not something that's going to scare people away. Do you know what I mean?
Don't make it
Feel like-
boring, basically.
Yeah, that as well.
I think what's really important is that we have conversations like this taking place, because this is the first step to raising awareness and letting people know about the services that are out there. So the more we talk about mental health, the more normal it becomes, and for people to open up and share. What I'm really keen for is students to come forward and be role models and talk openly, and actually that might then help another student. So I know, for example, there's students who have accessed support from the mental health and counselling service, and it's had a really positive impact on them as students. If we can share some of their stories and they come forward, then that might encourage another student to seek that help. So that's really, really important. Encouraging each other and identifying those students who can come forward and talk quite openly about their struggles and what support they've received.
I think another thing is, like in Freshers Week and Refreshers Week,
Yeah.
we see all these other stalls, but we don't see a single mental health one.
Okay.
And even
That's a good point.
even if we have, right, it's probably just black and white writing, and we've just walked past it
Okay.
with no interest in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And people just think that they're blind to it, you know what I mean? Like they get attracted to something that is colourful, such as a football stand, a Manjaro stand, you know, like Greg stand, and that's all in blue, red, like wonderful colours. Yeah, like the boring mental health one.
So what I'm picking up, you're saying, make it a bit more
Make it a bit more,
exciting,
yeah,
a
make
bit
it,
more
put it
appealing.
out there a bit more. Like,
Yeah.
just make people actually want to come and have a chat.
Yeah.
That's what you got to
Okay.
do. Like, you got like pull people towards it. To be fair.
At this point, you're making McDonald's look like a mental health therapy. You know what I mean? It's like, because that's what I used to be like. My eating disorder was really bad.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if you guys have ever felt like that. You know, eating a lot of like junk food as well. It ruined me at one point, especially in lockdown as well.
Mm.
I with too many assignments and so on. So it was a madness, honestly.
I think it's trying to normalize the conversation. So you know how your students come to careers and it's a normal place to go because you're here at university because you want to get a job. It's normalizing mental health as a part of maybe say everyday things. So I think a lot of the students, not just students but graduates, when they get to about third year, and especially if you come from an ethnic background where you haven't had other people who have been to university, there's a lot of pressures around you've got to get a job now because now you've done university. But it's the world has changed and it's a lot different now compared to how maybe you and I went to university.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressures. So
Definitely. Yeah. It's really tough at the moment. But what's really important is that you'd recognise the support out there. You don't really have to be struggling on your own. It's getting the support and getting it at the right time so your mental health doesn't deteriorate and you end up going into a service that you might not necessarily have needed had you gone in a bit earlier.
What's your opinion on toxic positivity? Because it's one of those things that I feel like is not talked about enough, but it is a real thing that, sometimes, I know we were just talking about, making mental health seem exciting, and obviously it isn't when you have issues, but do you think that it's actually a real thing, like people making it seem like it's something that's so exciting and so fun, but really obviously it's not, especially if you have issues, obviously.
Is that like people saying, haha, I've got depression, just laughing it off?
Yeah, stuff like that.
No,
Yeah, it exists.
That exists, 100% exists.
Okay. So
I've
I'm
seen it
picking up that's a
firsthand.
barrier. You saying can be a barrier? Is a barrier?
Yeah, it can be, definitely.
Yeah, because you'll see people going around laughing, saying, like, well, no, if you're just having a genuine like you're having a conversation, and then someone just says, "Oh, I've got anxiety," and then just starts laughing, like it's nothing.
Yeah.
But then again, you want to say something to them, but then you don't want to say
They
it.
probably have issues themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes some of that is about people not knowing how to start those conversations or what to say. If someone's telling you that they're struggling a bit, that's can be quite a lot for the person on the receiving end, knowing actually what questions to ask next. Because what you don't want to do is upset them.
Yeah.
You want to do the right thing, and again, that's about just accessing training, accessing support, knowing how to support someone, a mate if you like, or a fellow student if they're struggling. So it's really important that as many students as possible know what support services are out there, because you might not necessarily need that support, but you might come across a student, one of your friends for example, that might be struggling, and if you can spot that, you can then really encourage them to go and seek that support. So even though you might not need it, you will probably more than likely come across another student who will need that support. What we know is quite often students will go to one of their friends or a peer first, not necessarily a professional or a lecturer if you like, but it's a fellow student. So if you know and you can really be that voice of encouragement, it's really important.
Me, I'm great at giving advice, but I never take my own advice. Never.
See,
Never.
I think with that, like, do you feel like maybe you could just speak to your mate, because maybe you could be counselling them at the same time as they'll be
Me,
counselling
like, I've had a few friends come up to me, like, no, I've gone up to a few friends, like, if I've seen them looking upset, looking down, I've gone up to them and said, yo, let's go take a walk. I'll go outside with them, take a walk.
Okay.
I said to them, look, what's going on? Like, you look really upset, you just mood's gone down. And they say, oh, I'm tired. I said, don't give me that tired. Don't give me that tired nonsense, because I say the exact same thing and I know something's up, so talk to me.
You'd
And
be
then
like, yeah, walk
I
off
literally,
for you.
I said to him, look, what's going on, bro? Like, and we just have a good, like, we just literally talk about whatever's going on. I said, look, at the end of the day, you're never alone. You always have people there, whether it's your friends, it's your family. Then you have things now that we just learned about now, like you have counselling service in uni, you have this app that you got to have designed. There's a million and one things out there to help you.
Yeah.
And then again, even if you don't want to use like what these apps or go speak to uni, speak to your friends, speak to your family, speak to some people that you trust, because mental health is not a joke.
No.
It's serious, and it can ruin people's lives.
It can impact on their day-to-day behaviour.
Exactly.
You know, people can withdraw, people can isolate, they don't engage. That can then affect your low mood. So it's a bit like a vicious circle. If we don't address it and we don't seek that support, it can have a long-term effect on us. So it's really important that we try and get that support in a timely manner, at the right time. But the fact you're talking about it is really positive, and you're noticing behaviour, noticing changes.
I see changes in my mates, like whenever something's going on. Like sometimes I'd know just to stay back when they've been a bit hostile, like they say they start getting angry. That's when I'll take a step back.
Yeah.
But when they're being nice and easy, then like have a good conversation and just show them that you're there.
Yes.
Like you're there for them. They can talk to you about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes just being present with
And
them.
that's the first step. Like you just got to show them that you care.
And there is someone who cares. That's really important. 'Cause sometimes that person might not be ready to share, so it's going back to them maybe in a couple of weeks or a couple of days and revisiting the conversation, but being led by them, and they will share what they want to share. And just like you've done in that example, reassuring them that there is support out there.
Everyone
and
needs
you're there.
reassurance. Everyone needs reassurance at the end of the day, no matter what it is. So do you think mental health can affect people's careers? Like, because you said it affects people on day-to-day basis, so when people are working, how can it affect them?
I could give quite a few examples. One example I can give, if you're a final year student, you're really, really worried about the future. You know, there's, like you've just described, Irfan, there's pressures to get a job. You might find you're going for lots of interviews, but you're really unsuccessful. That might then lead to you having low mood. You know, that might increase the amount of worrying you've got, and that can then lead to mental health conditions and difficulties like depression, low mood. That might then stop, if you've been unsuccessful, you might then give up and not look for jobs. You might stop going out. So there are consequences sometimes. So being aware of that and knowing the support out there is really, really important. You've got people who, for example, might have low mood and find their behaviour they struggle with their moods, for example, at particular times of the day. So simple things like when you're going for an interview, if you're struggling in the morning to get up, but your interview's at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's going to impact on you because you're worrying about it. You might not turn up for your interview. So just being really aware of how you are and how you respond to certain situations.
So it's mainly about awareness.
Awareness and using techniques. So those techniques you described, for example, if you are anxious and you're worrying, just before your interview, do the box breathing, do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, really simple techniques that you can draw on to calm yourself.
I think one of the things is like when in careers we always talk about having resilience, but if you've got mental health issues or if you've got problems, you're not going to be resilient because you need someone to help you, overcome those. So maybe there's some learning to be had. With careers as well about our mental health issues. Maybe we need to do something about that.
I think just not separating them, but acknowledging actually that might be an area that students need support with, and maybe the support you're offering is building some of that in around mental health. So I don't know whether you do the workshops you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be just around interview skills, but actually thinking about having a positive mindset when you're going for an interview, being aware of how your moods can affect how you present yourself, things like that.
Definitely.
I mean, I can't turn my head, but if I like, let's say, like for you, what you could do is with careers, like she was saying, let's say, because we do a few events, like whenever, in the events, you can even talk about mental health as well, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So maybe have
So
you
like-
guys on the careers fair.
Yes.
You could give you
100%,
guys
like
a
just
stand.
talking about mental health, like it's
Yeah.
showing that it's out there and uni's here to help, that you got people here to help.
And acknowledging that actually, when you're at that stage where you're thinking about leaving university, you're going to be looking for a job, that can be quite anxiety provoking. So you might see a slight change in students as well, the pressures of having to leave. You've got maybe a loan that you've got to pay back. You've also then got pressures to find a job. It can be quite overwhelming for students. And just being aware of that really and signposting, giving them support, talking about those issues, asking them questions. How's your mental health? Do you feel you need a bit of support?
Cool. So how, if somebody wants to get involved in your project, how do we get in touch with you?
So we have an Instagram page, You Will Be Well. Again, I'd encourage everyone to download that. That has really up-to-date information in terms of the activities and the events that our student mental health ambassadors are running. And again, I'm here at the university. Come and speak to me and my lovely colleague Scott.
Anybody else got any questions, or should we call it a day?
I've got one. Well, this is actually a good way to end it. But do you feel like, over the years that you have worked with mental health, you've made the impact that you wanted to?
Definitely. I think for me, even on a very simple level, just being able to have that conversation with someone about their mental health is really, really powerful, because it's led to them then seeking the right help. And normalising mental health and just saying that actually it's not something you experience. Quite often we can feel it's only us who's experiencing that, but if we talk about it quite openly, it normalises mental health and encourages people to seek support.
I've got a question from Goal's a international student,
Oh, okay.
and we've got many international students, and we've got more coming as well. But I guess this goes for all students, to be honest with you. So how do international students benefit from the service, but also students who have graduated and left the university?
Yeah, so the app is predominantly for students who are at the university at the moment, but the app is available for all students. International students, again, can be vulnerable or at risk of experiencing mental health difficulties, you know, for a number of reasons. For example, they might be quite isolated, don't really have a good support network, and like rest of the student population in terms of pressures around deadlines, worries over financial issues, relationship problems. But the app is there for international students, but also I know there's lots of support available internally from the university for international students, and a lot of the events that we're running, again, targeted towards international students as well.
That's brilliant.
Okay.
Joanne?
I was gonna say, like, just make it clear that it's not just for a particular group, it's literally for anyone.
Yes, definitely.
100%.
For all students at the university, we don't differentiate.
Is that it?
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.